Yeah, put down the
Thank you. Good morning, all. How are you all?
Good.
Good. Awesome. So we are going to talk about, or we are going to discuss about. It's going to be a little interactive session about supply chain management. How many of you are in supply chain? Give us your hands, please. Awesome. So let me go. I'm going to walk you through a little bit about the supply chain first, and then about our company, what we do, what kind of problem we solve, and who we are, and all those things. Awesome. When we say, or when we talk about supply chain, this is the landscape we are talking about. And supply chain, as a global market size, it stood at 21.1 billion as of last December. And these are the different industries which share that market. Starts with transportation logistics, which is the major thing, and it is common misconception. When we talk about supply chain, we are talking about logistics, but it is more than logistics. That's what we are going to talk about. We're going to see in the next couple of slides. And we are talking about manufacturing, food and beverages, healthcare, retail, e-commerce, and automotive. Those are the major shareholders of this global market size. And in addition to that, these are all other industries which also have a presence in the supply chain area. And when we talk about again supply chain, we are talking about all these key players. We are talking about the raw material providers, the suppliers, manufacturers. When we talk about manufacturers, there are two types of manufacturers, right? One, partially finished goods and consumable goods. So if it is partially finished good, then it's going to come back to the another manufacturer through the wholesaler and distributor. And if it is a fully consumable good, the product is going to go to retailer through the same or different wholesaler and distributor, and finally we consume. So these are the different key players we are talking about when we talk about supply chain. And these are all different operations when we talk about supply chain. It starts with planning, and then sourcing and procurement. Basically, you work with suppliers, vendors to procure your raw materials or procure your partially finished goods. And then you talk about inbound and outbound logistics. Those arrow marks are the logistics part, right? And the manufacturing process and warehouse and inventory management. Obviously, all these manufacturers, raw material providers, and the retailers, and even package suppliers too, they have to store their inventory in a warehouse. And it requires a process to manage efficiently. And we are talking about distribution as well, which has to happen efficiently as well. So this is the entire landscape when we talk about supply chain. So you would understand this beyond logistics right now, right? And these are all different B2B core functions in the supply chain area. It starts with product catalog management, vendor management, shipping and logistics, and inventory management, pricing and quotation, sales and marketing, order management, payment and invoicing, customer management, financials. So these are all different key functions or core functions when we talk about supply chain. So when we talk about supply chain, we have to talk about just not the, we're going to call SCM as supply chain management, right? And we cannot avoid the ERP products or enterprise resource planning, because when we talk about supply chain planning, it doesn't come without the demand forecasting and your enterprise resource planning. When I say resource, it could be labor and material, right? So these all also falls under the ERP spectrum as well. So obviously we connect with the backend systems, like we have different products, enterprise products, which we can touch upon later slides. So ERP, Salesforce has a CRM, and SAP has a ERP, and accounting, QuickBooks kind of products, and there are logistics partners as well. And it's all consumed by these B2B vendors. So business customers, vendors, and people who administrate this whole process. So these are all the whole core functions. Now I go back to the previous question. How many of you are in supply chain now? Pretty much everyone, right? So that's the landscape we are talking about. And these are all the key problems today, even today, in supply chain. It starts with forecasting. And this is a major problem we have been having for the past, particularly during the COVID. We had a huge surge in the demand, and no one was able to predict. And even today, we have this problem because that disrupted the whole demand supply chain. And today, it's so hard to forecast what's that I need to produce, what's that I need to procure, what's that I need to supply. So there's a huge problem with that demand forecasting and visibility. When I talk about visibility, we don't know where this coffee bean came from, right? We drink coffee, we eat chips and everything. We don't know where the product origin is, where the actual the original raw material was produced, and how it was moved, how it was processed, how it's moving along the supply chain, and then how it landed, right? Forget about us. Even the stores don't know where the products came from, right? So that's what when I say visibility, goods movement, inventory, and including the supplier performance is what I'm talking about. This is another key problem we are having today. And transparency, that includes what I said as well, the product origins, the operations, supplier practices, and compliance. So we have all these partially finished goods and the raw materials from various parts of the world, which belongs to various geographical and political borders, and they have their own compliance, and we don't have that visibility. Or not every party involved in the chain doesn't have the visibility of what kind of compliance, what kind of food regulations, what kind of all these things. We don't have that visibility, right? We don't have the transparency. So that's what we are talking about when we say compliance. And optimization, another problem, right? Because when we talk about supply chain again, as I said, it involves multiple unknown parties in the whole chain. And it's so hard to build a trust between those unknown parties, right? And that's the major root cause of optimization, where procurement, production, and transportation and inventory management, it's basically, we are wasting a lot of resource. And this is one of the major causes of a major problem we are talking about, the global warming or climate crisis, right? But if we are able to optimize this supply chain, we will be able to address that as well. And congestion. When I say congestion, I'm really talking about congestion literally in the ports. Usually, the ports will come in like, hey, once you bring the goods here to the ship, we will actually unload and in 2 days. But doesn't happen. It takes about a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What happens to the companies who are waiting for the product? Forget about that. What about the ships are still in the ocean? They have to wait. So that's the major problem when we talk about congestion. And obviously, it also impacts the distribution centers as well. And when it comes to real-time monitoring, what if, as a business owner, I know when I am going to get the shipment of what I'm expecting? I know it has been shipped from the origin, but if I have the real-time visibility of when I'm going to get it, whether it is delayed, whether it is fast-tracked, then my planning would be more efficient, right? And that's what we are talking about when we say inventory, production, and transportation real-time monitoring. And obviously, inefficient process also ties back to the optimization, so we can reduce waste, streamline the operations, and enhance the operations. So these are all the key problems we have today, even today. Because supply chain is not new. Because trading is not new. Trading is there for past at least 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 years ago, right? This supply chain prevailed even during the Silk Route and Silk Trade period. But we are still having these problems even after thousands and thousands of years, right? So that's where we, Dartexon, we are a digital supply chain company. We actually thrive in solving all these problems through digital solutions. Quickly about Dartexon. We started this company in the year of 2018 as a blockchain development company, hoping that blockchain would get into mainstream in at least 3 years. We invested heavily in terms of bringing in people, training them, building products. But unfortunately, blockchain did not get into mainstream primarily because the regulatory compliances, uncertainty in regulations, right? And since we had to pivot because of that problem, we just said, hey, for now we are a mobile app and a web app development company, but we still wanted to create a niche. We wanted to move into a niche area, hone into that area, and then thrive in that area. And after a year, we look back, all our solutions, everything we built, we realized we were building a lot of things around supply chain. And so we thought, and it's a problem, right? You saw the previous slide, we have a lot of problems there. So with our digital experience, we thought, let's actually dive into supply chain and then harness on it, hone on it, and then build solutions on it so that we can make a difference. So that's the quick story about Dartexon from a historical perspective. So that's me. and that's my partner. So we both have more than 50 years of combined experience in IT professional services. And I worked in companies like JP Morgan Chase, managing their payment merchant services. And I worked for companies like Marriott Vacations. I manage their guest portal reservations. It's basically a transformation from a legacy system to an API-based, microservice-based system. And I work for Darden. I was part of the leading team. We built their employee portal from the scratch. And I work for Infosys. Few might have heard of. You can think of head-on-head competitor of Deloitte. And my partner, he worked in different companies as well. So put together, we have been in this industry playing multiple roles. So I started as a Java developer in the year of 2000 myself. And those were the days we pull up the notepad and write the code, not those IDEs if you remember. And I grew up as a tech lead. I grew up as then technology architect, and then solutions architect and enterprise architect. I also managed projects in different scale, from a few hundreds and then up to a few millions. And so I understand the 360 degree of the technology space, which is process, business, and people, right? And obviously the technology. So that with that 360 degree view, I have the understanding of what I can understand what your business problems are, translate them into technology, and then build a solution, and then put it back into the system. That's the core competency we got. And who we are and why us. So we are visionary digital leaders. What it means is we sit in the forefront of the digital transformation or digitalization and steer the businesses to the proper future, right? And then we are trusted solution pioneers, which means we build solutions for long-term success of our clients. We don't just look at today alone. Obviously, we look at today, where they are and what they need and how much they can spend. Accordingly, build a solution, and also look at a long-term solution, and then we build robust kind of solutions. Then we are a creative industry innovators. I want to touch upon this point a little bit. So, in between Dartexon, we found a company called Seed Incubate. It's a subsidiary company of Dartexon, and we focused on building startups. And we got a good understanding of how startup works, the approach, and how startups has to be built, and what kind of startups can succeed. So we got those knowledge in between, because I'm a corporate guy. You have seen my previous slide. I'm a corporate guy for the last 22 years. But for the last 5 years, I have a good understanding of the startup ecosystem as well. So, and being in the corporate, I know why corporates have a hesitance to work with startups. They don't want to take the risk. And I know why they don't, what are the reasons why they don't want to take the risk. So being in both the space of startup and the corporate, I know exactly how to bridge them, right? So that's what, when we are creative industry innovators, we want to build a partnership between large enterprises and dynamic startups. And I think that's one of our key differentiators as well in this space. And we are strategic thinkers and seasoned business growth enablers. What that means is, as I said, we will understand where you are today, and then have some tactics to solve problems today, and also have strategies to build a roadmap aligning with your go-to-market strategy and the current problems, right? So that's the kind of strategy we put in place. And we have access to more than 350 developers in the US and global, so we have a good workforce to handle your problems. So these are the solutions we provide. We provide supply chain process automation, data analytics and predictive insights, data integration and interoperability, supply chain visibility solutions, asset tracking with digital twins, which means you will have a digital object managing as the physical object moves around or being manufactured or whatever that is, right? And last mile delivery optimization, e-commerce and digital integration, and blockchain and smart contracts. That's our route. This is where we started. And we still have a good understanding of what kind of blockchain technologies to be used for what kind of business problems. It's not like one-stop solution. Blockchain is not a one-solution thing. So it depends on whether you are building a public chain or a private chain, what kind of technology should be used, right? If it is a public chain, we go with either Ethereum or Solana or Polkadot. If it is a private chain, we go with Hyperledger. So there's a lot of nuance when we talk about blockchain, right? And these are all different technology services we provide. We provide software development, obviously, and integration. So we are also experts in integrating multiple discrete systems. So as a company, you might be using multiple systems, and you will have people working to connect those systems, export data, manage it in Excel, process it, import it to another system, process it, export, import, right? So manually you process the interoperability between those systems, data interoperability between the systems. But we actually come and understand those systems, understand the details, and then connect them or integrate them so that it works seamlessly without manual intervention, without manual error, so it saves time. And we do mobile app development and the cloud, IoT, and process automation, AI and machine learning, and application modernization and enterprise services. And we also take care of the managed services for our long-term, like we call it the annual maintenance contract kind of things. So these are all different enterprise technology stack. We have resources, and these are supply chains, Blue Yonder, Salesforce, SAP, and a few others. And these are all different technology stack, like building mobile apps, web apps, middle tiers, database, cloud, AI, and blockchain. And these are all different startups we are building partnerships with so that we can bridge them with the medium and large enterprises. So these are all different success stories. I'm going to reserve time. You have, how much time you have? Like a couple of minutes? No.
30 seconds.
So these are all the key success stories. So we actually are working with the logistics company. So we grew them from 18 million to 210 million in the last 3 years. It's just not us alone. COVID helped them a lot, obviously, and we enabled them to grow in a more exponential way. And we implemented a membership event and learning management system within 6 months for this organization. These two are, we also invested in these two companies and also built products for these companies. And these are all other clients we have worked with. That's it. If you are, obviously, I see you are all in supply chain.
Great job, Vijay. Obviously, you're a consulting firm to business and industry. Who's doing your marketing? How do people find out you exist?
Yeah, so we actually are creating our presence through networking events, number one. And we also reach out through some of the sales intelligence tools available in the market to find our target audience. And then we have built a lot of case studies in our website. So we actually share those case studies to potential leads so that they can understand what we have built so far. And if there is an alignment, they will come back and then connect with us. That's the kind of marketing we are doing.
So in addition, this is word of mouth.
Word of mouth, you're right.
Would it be worth it your while to hire a marketing firm to really get your name out there? Obviously, you do some really good stuff. You guys are brilliant at what you do. But if nobody knows you're out there, what good is that going to do you? Word of mouth is fine, but it's somewhat limited.
So that's a great suggestion. Thank you so much for that. Social media marketing is I learned in a hard way. There's a difference between marketing and sales, right? Marketing is a one-way communication. You broadcast. Sales is a one-on-one communication. You create a conversation. And then you understand their problem and align your solution with their problem. Most of the time, marketing is good. But in my experience, I may be wrong. In my experience, without sales, marketing is nothing, especially for service industry.
That's true. You need to have both.
Yeah. Especially for service industry. Product industry has a different ecosystem because through marketing you can gain leads. For services, it's different ballgame. So we are actually working in strategizing both marketing and sales at this time. And any connections, any help would really be of our support.
Yeah, we have a question here.
Could you give an example of how you guys use blockchain and smart contracts for transparency?
Oh yeah. So, see, blockchain at core. I used to say this. I am one of the few who understands the difference between blockchain, crypto, and Bitcoin. These three are different. I'm glad you asked the question. I'm glad I had this opportunity to say this. These three are different, right? Blockchain, at the core, it's a ledger. Like as if you write something, right? It's a ledger. You actually create a transaction or record a transaction. You can update. I'm talking about ledger, right? You can update or delete a transaction, and then you can read a transaction. These are the four key operations when we talk about ledger, right? We call in technology what we call as CRUD: create, read, update, delete. These are the same operations when you interact with the database in a technology fashion, right? You create a record, read a record, update a record, delete a record. Blockchain is a technology which allows you to create a record or read a record. You cannot update, you cannot delete. Because each record is connected to a crypto key or cryptographic key, and then it goes on. You cannot go back to one of the record and then break it. That's the technology, right? And now, if I say, hey, I have a blockchain solution in this supply chain area to manage all the inventory, right? And I don't know you, but I say I have implemented this in the blockchain technology, which actually ensures the trust, so that it also has a consensus mechanism as well. So before a block can be added to the chain, all the parties in the private blockchain, in this case, have to approve, yes, these are all good. So it goes into the chain, right? And you cannot break the chain. That's the technology behind when we talk about blockchain. And that's how we ensure the trust. Did I answer you?
Yeah, well, actually, the question is, you ensure transparency because you can maybe do a smart contract for something you're selling today, and maybe 10 years from now, you know the contract's not going to be changed because you know it's on blockchain.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. You're right.
Right.
Over there.
First off, beautiful presentation. The slides look gorgeous. I didn't think that it clearly identified who your target market is. Just from the slides, I didn't get that. So is that something that you could kind of elaborate for us? Like, who
Absolutely.
is this company made for? Please don't see everyone.
Thanks for the question. I will make sure that it's included there. So our target audience are startups who has supply chain solutions. And when I say startups, unfortunately, I'm not talking about 0 to 1 startups. I'm talking about 1 to 10 startups, right? Who have established their market really well, so that we can connect them with the corporates. And when I say corporates, that's another set of corporates we're talking about. We're talking about companies who are making somewhere between 10 million to 500 million in revenue, and at a minimum of 20 employees to 500 employees, right? And people working in operations, technology, product management, procurement, and all those operations I'm talking about, all the supply chain operations I'm talking about. And I'm talking about CXO, director, and VP kind of seniority. These are our target audience, so that we can actually talk to them.
Okay, so established startups. Yeah.
Established startups, yes.
Right. The problems they know they have, like what would you say their top 3 challenges are that they can clearly comprehend? Okay, we're struggling with X, Y, and Z. What would those be?
Can you please rephrase your question a little bit so I can understand? So you're talking about startups who wanted to connect with these corporates?
Your target audience, right? Like established startups who are in the supply chain and they have supply chain issues. Like, what would you say their top 3 pain points are that they're clearly aware that they have, right? It's a marketing question. I'm asking you to describe the challenges they're facing that would make them a good fit for your service.
Okay, I understand now. So their biggest problem is their inefficiency to articulate how they manage the risks, how they overcome the risks, what these corporates have in mind when they want to work with them, right? So above all the reasons, top reason why a corporate would hesitate to work with a startup is how they are going to sustain, because corporates want long-term partnership, and startups, unfortunately, it's a game where it's a journey. Basically, we are traveling, right? So we ourselves don't know where we fall and where we get up. But corporates doesn't work in the fashion. They have to have a robust solution. All these corporates are looking for robust solutions in this from startup world. So as a startup, we need to articulate our solution, more than our solution, our company's backing, how strong we are, how robust we are, how scalable we are, and how long we can run. And obviously with the funding, all those things. So we have to articulate as a startup company to the corporate so that they can make an informed decision to manage their risks. Did I answer your question?
More or less.
Thank you.
Is there a particular part of the supply chain, because it's so vast, is there a particular part that you do better at or have done more work in?
Particularly in the maritime shipping, container management industry, that's one of our clients we work with. So, little about what we work with them. So we started working with them from 2019-ish onwards. And they initially wanted to set up a back office operation. And they were about, as I said, like around 20 million and in revenue per year. And we are a technology company, right? And they were looking for a back office operation, and we wanted to learn about logistics in the industry. So we decided to set up the back office operation. After a couple of months, we being a technology company, we went back and said like, hey, can we talk to your technology team? And they said like, what technology team? That's the state of most of the logistics company even today with that revenue range, right? And they were actually operating completely paperless. Literally, I'm not exaggerating, right? They were working on the sticky notes and papers. And we went in, we kind of understood their operations. We initially brought them into a SharePoint where at least all the bill of lading can come into one single source of truth. So all the parties get to the one reference. And then we also built, as we progressed, we also built customer portal for them so that their agents who wanted to book container space, a smaller container space, we call it as LCL to FCL, low container load to full container load, right? So they sell, we manage them, their process, we automated their process to build a customer portal so then customers can come and buy a specific piece of container. So we kind of digitalized the whole company. And that's our major area we have worked in the supply chain. And we also actually automated the purchase order process flow, and we also built a last mile delivery a product for other clients, and a few more are there.
Next time I would open with that story.
Oh.
Yeah, I've got some feedback too, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Where do I start? So, on delivery. So you tend to speak fast, and it makes it harder for us to understand. Okay, number one. So I would, and I know that if you're nervous or not or whatever, but I know you just go a mile a minute, right? So you need to. I would slow down a little bit.
Yep.
On the information. Who is this presentation made for?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the audience for this presentation? It's not the audience in this room.
Mm.
So who's the audience for?
Is the question? So yeah, it's for the medium and large enterprises and startups who are in this space.
Okay. So would you say that those companies have as good an understanding of supply chain and their problems with it as you?
They do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they are living with a problem.
Right, but I consider supply chain kind of like project management. Everybody thinks they're an expert, but nobody knows anything about it. Okay. And
I'm sorry. They do know their problem, but they don't know.
They don't know exactly what the real cause of the problem is.
Yeah.
Right. So, I would have changed it around a bit, and I would have started out with who you are at Dartexon, and we'll get to the slides in a minute, but You know, we need to understand, this audience needed to understand, first of all, more about you and who you are. But then from there, as far as the supply chain, I'd suggest, as Eric mentioned, tell us a story. Excuse me. Tell us a story from the point of view of one of your primary customers, like an avatar type of a story. Like this is so and so, and they don't understand why their prices are going up and why they can't get their raw materials or the product, or just pick somebody in the line or whatever, and take us on a journey that this is a pain point, this is a pain point, this is a pain point, and this is how we help them. Right? That would help us, and frankly, your audience really understand better who you are, what you do, and what the value that you're providing them. So that was another thing, and sorry if I'm using it, but the other thing is the slides were too complex. You had blocks up here, then you had sub blocks and everything. We don't need that. They don't even need that, right? They need to trust that you know it.
Yep.
Okay. They don't need a lesson. So I would cut down on and don't read off the slides and way too many words and things like that. Just the thing I first learned in presentations is dazzle them with your brilliance or baffle them with your bullshit. Right? So obviously it's a little bit of both for the most successful presentations. So that's what I'll talk about right now, but happy to, you know me, I'm happy to sit down with you afterwards.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Or?
We're out of time, so I have the final question, and what can we as a community do for you?
Oh, thank you. So we are looking for partners who understands the supply chain area, who understands the problems in the supply chain area, and we can work together in solving those from a digital fashion. We are looking for supply chain partners.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Vijay.
Thank you.
All right. Next week, we are going to hear from Aubrey Perry of Crackem. Aubrey is actually on a Zoom call right now, and I had a chance to re-meet him at Orlandopreneur. He has an app. I know this is not entirely accurate, and Aubrey's going to be like angry messaging me in a minute. It's like a dating service for consumers and craft beer. So instead of just looking on Google Maps saying craft brewery near me, Crackem will help you find the craft breweries near you or with the beers that you would like to try. So we're going to hear about that next week. But for the discussion, I wanted to, and gave you all time to think about this, what is the bestest ever piece of business advice you have ever given or gotten? Tim.
My best advice came from C.T. Ricky, my father. Know your costs before you put a price on your product or service.
All right, excellent. Deja, you had one.
Spend more time in the problem you're trying to solve before coming up with the solution.
Good. Rupert.
You know what it is? Fail to plan to fail.
Yeah. Peter.
That comes from Jim Cunningham. He was a former CEO at Disney. Perception is not negotiable. Facts are negotiable, but perception is not. So work on that perception.
Excellent. I saw a hand up here. Sam.
Make sure you don't say anything until you fully understand it. Know some good lawyers.
Always know the why.
Always know the why. Yep. Excellent. Who else? John.
Confidence is more important than competence. Without confidence, you will never make it.
Confidence is more important than competence.
Yes.
Excellent. That is a good one. Fake it till you make it. Danny.
Think before you react.
Chapter 10. Al.
It sounds trite, but always make the customer number one.
True. A lot of websites I see, there's always an About Us page. Here's our history. Here's how we grew. Here's what we do. And we don't see, here's your problem, and here's what we solve. Josh.
Love everyone, but don't wait for anyone. If you want to be successful in business, anyways.
Excellent.
Business. Oh, okay.
Who else? Bernd.
People mostly know you by your reputation, but what really matters is your character.
I have another one.
Yes.
Shut up, start selling.
Shut up and start selling. Sean.
Number one reason for 1995 of the failure is we fall in love with our solution. Please never do that. Fall in love with your problem. In fact, be obsessed with the problem. That's the key. Because solution, if you fall in love with this is your idea. You're not dummy. This is your idea. You're pushing the toothpaste back in the tube. Trying to fail. So, but just be obsessed with the problem. That's what the people who create success and failure. Look at Elon Musk. Look at Steve Jobs. They're obsessed with the problem, not the solution. Solutions are diameter.
Matthias.
Yes, always try the problem, the product solution that you're working with your clients, with your customers before building it.
All right. I think mine actually came from my father-in-law, and Dimitri asked this actually very question this morning, and I told him always try to be the best that you can be at what you do and focus your skills on doing that. But really, the best piece of advice I ever got was from my father-in-law. I worked for him very early in my career. That's where I launched my marketing career, starting in 1994, and we sold poultry feeding equipment overseas. Never in the U.S., just always overseas. And the thing that was most important to him was his reputation, because he had built it over decades. And he knew that if he focused too much on the money and less on the friendship that he had with his customers, he would lose. He might make the money, he might make a few $1,000s, but he would lose them as a customer and as a friend forever. So for him, if there was a sticking point in a sale and there was a conflict between him and a customer, he would rather lose money on the sale because it would hurt his reputation. Not only would it hurt his reputation with that customer, it would spread, because this was a small industry. It was the poultry industry. A lot of chickens, but a very small industry. And they all talked. And they all said, hey, Carmen stiffed me on this. It would spread throughout the world, and he would be known for that. And so for him, it was always about the friendship first. And so you don't have to be great friends with your customers, but if you focus on what they need and what they want and think of them as friends, and I don't want to lose this friend, they will always take care of you. It may not feel good in that transaction at that moment, but 5 years later, you will have forgotten about that because you're still talking with them, still doing business with them. Denny.
Never be afraid to say, I don't know.
Exactly. Teresa.
And to your point, a business coach I worked with said, money is the easiest thing to make. And if you really keep that in mind and believe that, the money will come, but what you are talking about is really the meat of the potato about being in business. It's about helping other people, supporting them, and creating positive results in the world.
All right. Real quick, Deja, can you look at my computer and see if we have anybody on the chat with questions? Dimitri.
Yeah, one framework that's really helped me is like allowing myself to leave value on the table for the customer, and just trying to make sure that I provide way more value than I'm even charging them. So if I can build $1 million house for $10,000 and charge somebody $100,000, then that's kind of the sweet spot.
Fire. Make one.
Okay. Deja.
Anita Andrews says, be open to taking calculated risks.
Excellent. Don't play it safe. We're entrepreneurs. That's what we do.
And Jose, I'm not going to butcher your last name, but Jose says, don't worry about being liked.
Ah, that's the opposite of what I say. Anyone else? Scott.
I'm also going to do a little bit of, not necessarily the opposite of what you said, but a good piece of advice that I got from my sales trainer was when I was building a business idea, and I had all of my costs figured out, and I had everything that I was charging figured out, and he looked at that and he said, "What's your sales commission?" I'm like, "Well, this is just me selling this. I've got profit built into it." He said, "That's nice. What if you grow so much that you need to hire a salesperson? What's your sales commission?" So learning that when you're doing your pricing structure, allow for bringing in other people to sell for you, and put that commission in there so that you're prepared for that. And he said, and that way you're also, at that point you're your employee, so you're paying yourself, not just the profit of what your company is making. Be able to separate yourself from your company.
Rupert.
If you focus on the processes, the best products and services follow.
Exactly. Deja.
Shauna says, focus on what's in it for them rather than speak on what's so great about our business.
Excellent. Vijay.
Every business is unique. Listen to these advices, observe them, but make your own decisions.
Jim.
Right. So I just got a couple real quick. So my dad always told us, I grew up in the restaurant business. My dad always said, watch your pennies, the dollars will take care of yourselves. And then very conservatively showed me how a little cup of melted butter to go out with a seafood dish. Somebody wants extra, if it's not charged, it can very easily accumulate into about $40,000 to $50,000 lost revenue a year. That was one. The other one that I learned, which has been really valuable, when you meet somebody, get their information, figure out, add them to your contacts, figure out creative ways to stay in touch with them. You'll never know where they'll go. I have friends now that I've grown up with and met with that are U.S. senator, state senator. My daughter goes, Dad, you know everybody. How? Because I followed that one. So that's that thing.
Excellent. Josh.
All this great advice reminded me of another one. It's what you learn after you think you know it all that makes all the difference in the world.
Deja.
I'd say don't assume your customers are rational and well-informed. Assume that they're emotional and want to be liked and are just looking to survive and feel like they're part of something that matters. And let that inform your marketing and how you talk to them.
Right. Tim, and then Jim, and then Rupert.
It takes a team to build a dream, and an entrepreneur to create the dream.
All right, Jim.
And I had another one too. You know, the biggest thing, especially in business, is learning how to get people to trust you. So one of the best pieces of advice I have ever gotten was learn how to make and keep small promises. So if you told somebody, hey, I've got a book I think you would like, I'm going to drop it off at your office, make sure you get it to them when you would, or get them information that you would when you said you would before the time.
All right, Rupert.
So I'm going to say it quick and then I want to elaborate. So don't judge a book by its cover. So I was sales training and by mistake, we were sent to a customer that was on our do not talk to list. And that person wound up buying from us sight unseen right there on the spot.
Wow.
So don't judge a book by its cover.
Excellent. Deja.
I'd say learn how to ask really great questions. And if you get the chance to talk to somebody really cool, even if just for like 10 seconds, try to ask them something that you can't Google, even if you spend 20 minutes doing it. It'll make them curious and you'll end up having a much longer conversation.
Like, for example, I know a word that rhymes with orange. Michael.
One of the things that's always worked for me, failure is the end of the road. It's a chapter in the next part of your life.
All right. I'll do the last one because we're almost out of time, and a lot of you have heard me talk about this before. Your competitors don't necessarily have to be your competitors. If you focus on a specific niche, and they focus on a specific niche, and you guys don't cross, you can end up selling on behalf of each other. You can double your efforts. just by having somebody else in your field. So if you're a bookkeeper and you decide, I'm not going to bookkeep for everybody, I'm only going to focus on restaurants, and your friend who is also a bookkeeper, you talk her into specializing. You only focus on professional services, lawyers, doctors, dentists. Then, whenever you get a call from a lawyer who says, hey, I need a bookkeeper, you can say, I don't do that, but my friend Sheila does that. You need to talk to Sheila. And Sheila gets a call from the local Arby's franchise, and Sheila says, I don't do restaurants, but Eric does restaurants. You need to talk to him. We've doubled our workforce. We are actually out there selling for each other. You find 3 or 4 people like that. Somebody else who specializes only in manufacturing. Somebody else who only specializes in HVAC. You've got 4 people all working together. You've got 3 more people selling for you. So if you specialize in your niche and you work with your competitors, the 4 of you can grow your business. Plus, specialists can charge more, like a couple $100 an hour versus $50 an hour, because I only do this.
Can I add one last one that's
Yes.
particularly relevant for 1 million cups?
Sure.
Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. So come up with a good story, explain it simply, and that's how you generate your sales. Metaphors.
All right. Thank you very much. That was all great advice. I hope somebody took that down. Scott, the recorder's running?
It's recorded.
Okay, perfect. All right, so if you want to download the chat and you're on Zoom, click the 3 buttons at the bottom right corner of your screen and hit save the chat. If you want a copy of the chat, email me, eric.deckers@gmail. I'll send it to you. If you are not already on Meetup with us, just meetup.com. 1 million cups Orlando, and each word is hyphenated. We also have a Facebook page. And finally, connect with somebody that you met here today. We have a few new people. You met new people. Maybe you've each been coming here for a while, but you met for the first time. Go have coffee, have lunch, have a Zoom call or a phone call. That's how we build our community. That's how we do that specialist work that we can start selling for each other. So go out, meet some people, make something great happen. Have a good week.